Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it is Thursday. It's January 25th. This will be our chart lesson, and this is going to wrap it up for the week. No chart lessons on Friday, so won't be back until Monday. But it was an interesting day. In the end, we closed basically unchanged. I think we were a tick or two off of what we closed at yesterday, but we had a lot of movement again today. We started out up. We had a big leg down. Well, there's actually a couple of legs in there. Then a kind of a weak attempt at a correction, and then another attempt at another leg down. And of course, you want to measure that leg and look for a possible measure leg. And when we didn't get it, didn't matter. It was, we were into the 2 o'clock hour before we ever got there, so it didn't really matter. But generally, when you don't reach when you miss a target by that much, that means you're probably going to go pretty strongly in another direction. You can see we did have a spike up. This is what you call a little spike in channel. It spikes up and goes into a more natural 45-degree channel. I'll just draw it so you can see it there. And you can see that little channel. It's a spike in a channel. I mean, this is too strong and too hard to continue, so prices a good healthy trend will get into a 45-degree angle and try to stay there like this one. This is way too steep. And then this is what happens. You get an overshoot and then it reverses and you get a correction. And this correction lasted, I'd say the correction started right here about 9. And we corrected till just almost right into the noon hour. And then we tried, the prices attempted the next leg down and didn't make it. And then we had that spiking channel up. So when I came in, I mean, this is just like a runaway straight up move, and it's not going to last. Somebody asked me about this trade here. It's probably by this point, with this close outside the channel and this straight up move, it's probably, as soon as it turns down, there's probably a high probability it's coming back to the EMA. But you just don't want to risk that. You really need a lower high, and you don't get one here. You don't get a lower high till you've already gone through the EMA and pulled back to test it. So sometimes taking these can be, I guess what I'm trying to say is, if you want to take risks, high risk brings high reward, but high risk also brings more losing trades. So I'm not crazy about that one, but it is only, I think it's 4 ticks maybe, and you're a long way away from the EMA. The trend line here, it has a close outside and just a rocket straight up to a new high, and we hadn't been back to the EMA since whatever time this was, 3 or 4 in the morning. So we were way overdue. So, if you catch that, look what you get. But it's a very high risk trade, and most people when they start trying to pick tops and trying to pick bottoms, they end up losing their shirt. So that's all I'm gonna say about it. I did mark it green, but it's very risky, especially the way this market's been on rallies lately. So just keep that in mind. Let me back out. We're gonna have to kind of ease along in this chart, because it's just, to get out the whole chart, you have to get it bunched up so small you can't really see it. So, and I'm trying to adjust my chair here and it's not cooperating. But anyway, we had the break, moved to a new high, and then we started down, and now we got a trend down. And we already talked about that. You get your lower high right here. Look how we shoot right through the EMA, pull back, test it, and you get a second entry short right there. Actually, that's a first entry, because now we'd be wanting to count off the bottoms. That's just really a lower high. I used to call that off the high a second entry, but that's the start of your second leg. And, that was before I was really trying to teach this stuff. So I've kind of changed what I call this now. It's really a lower high, so that's what I'm going to call it from now on. I'm not calling it a second entry, because it just confuses people, because they can't find the second entry, because if you're counting off the low, it's only a first entry. And so that confuses people. And if you're going off the top, it's just a first entry. So I've changed what I call this to a lower high, and that's really what it is. So but now you would expect another leg down from there, And I thought I drew a little, oh, I do have an arrow there. Let me get rid of that one. Here's my little arrow. So you want to measure that first leg down, and once we head lower, no, I didn't draw that other one, but counting that leg right there, you want to look for a measured leg of it. So I did not draw that one. Let's go back. So there's your first leg, and when you start down from right there, you would look for a possible measured leg. And look, we went a tick or so further before it bounced. And you can see that over and over and over. So once we head lower there, you're looking for that measured move. And you want to get out a little bit prior to it, because sometimes you don't quite get there. Sometimes you'll overshoot it. Sometimes you don't quite get there. But most of the time, it's going to give you a fairly accurate target, just like on this leg from this first leg down, and your correction, then there's your next leg, and look, we overshot that one slightly as well. This market was in a big sell-off, and that'll happen sometimes. But when you get a big overshoot, then it'll end up correcting. So anyway, you get a failed second entry long here, and look at the new high. You're coming back first entry, pull back second entry, and I guarantee you a lot of people probably tried to get long right there and found out they were trapped, and boom, it heads down. It actually comes back again. You got a little support right there, so I'm not crazy about entering on. That's a huge bearish bar, but it's just a big up down bar, so it's really kind of risky entering there, but you still may consider it. But it's going short right into that, all that support right there. You're better off to wait on a breakout pullback short, which comes right here, but then your signal bar is not very good. So again, I don't think you really want to risk it, but it is off a key entry point right here, and this is also off a key entry point, and it's a breakout pullback short. Now that made me think about something. I don't want this to get too long today, and I don't want to get off on a tangent either. But somebody made a comment. I don't even know what the trade was because I didn't see the comment. The comment's probably a week or two old, but they made a comment about entering on a breakout, and they said, and they made the comment that, why are you entering on a breakout? I thought you never entered on a breakout. Well, if you're trading a range, generally you're not going to enter on a breakout, but that doesn't mean you can't get a continuation off a breakout. 90% of the time on a range, prices are going to fail on a breakout. So if you're going to take the breakout, you got to wait on a breakout pullback entry. In other words, what happened here? Yeah, the line's not really straight. Now, anyway, you see the point right there. For some reason, I can't get that line to. There it is. You see that support right across there. Well, notice how it broke lower. And if you actually come down to these bottom two, it still broke lower and pulls back and then goes down. And that's what you want to wait on. You don't want to enter here trying to break out of it, because it'll probably fail and come back just like it did. But then it continues on, and you would expect that probably because we traded down into this, and look how we're making a lower high there every single time. That's your clues, and it's just tracking down that trend line that we're probably going lower. So in that case, if that was a great signal bar, I'd say yes, you want to take that breakout right there, but you're not. Notice how that one's green. That one's really risky. That would be taking the actual breakout, and you would have had to ride out that pullback. And that's what generally happens. But now if we were just going sideways for the day, I'd tell you to fade that and try to get long there. But you don't want to be trying to get long right here, because look what's happening. When you got a trend line coming down, you're making a lower high every single time. Even though you're not necessarily making lower lows, you're making lower highs. Everything's gotten below the EMA. Everything's pointing to more down right now. And you just need the right setup. And the right setup is generally to wait on that breakout pullback short. Now that's a very nice bar right there, but that's really your signal bar. And even if you'd have let it break below this one and dropped your limit order back here, you still wouldn't have got filled. So you couldn't have got in that one unless you went short below that bar, and that's too risky because now you're getting away from the EMA. It probably takes more than 8 ticks. That's a real big bar. You just can't enter there. So. But I hope that was clear about the breakout pullbacks. you don't always. There's not a no. We never go short on a breakout or long on a breakout, but you got to understand um, the overall context of the market, what it's doing, and why, and the few times that you would want to take a breakout. And this would be one of them if you had a good setup, but that's not a very good signal bar, so I didn't mark it. So I hope that's clear. If the person that made that comment still has questions about that, drop me an email. I'll be glad to go over it some more. And there's plenty of stuff out there if you Google it on the website, or if you just use the search function on our website. You can probably find some articles already on a breakout pullback type entry, and there's probably one there here on YouTube as well. So use the Google search and then the search on our website and see if you can find it. If not, send me an email and I'll be happy to talk about it. But then we start correcting here. Notice you got a new low, first entry, pullback, second entry. That's the first break of that trend line. This has been a nice downtrend, so you're probably going to at least retest this low, and we may be going to test the overnight lows. And so that was just showing the measured move there. There's your first leg. And so you were looking for a target down here if this leg starts lower. So we'll get that out of the way. We don't really need it anymore. But notice what's happening here. I don't have the little short term. There's a little short term trend line working up through here. You really don't get a close outside, but it pushes up. You get a first entry, it comes up. You get a second entry, and that just that huge bearish bar. This is really your signal bar, the bar to the left of it. Let me make it a little bigger still. But you can't. That's too bullish. So what I would consider here is if it breaks below, what prices break below that bar, then I might drop a limit order back where this would originally triggered, or maybe even a tick or two back in just to see what happens. You would have gotten filled at least at the bottom of that if you dropped a limit order there. Tick back in, you probably wouldn't have got filled. And you still could have maybe taken that trade. You're better off to wait on a lower high or a failed second entry short, and this actually should have been right there. And notice you got your lower high here, but now you're going short right into that support again. I'm not crazy about it. You've already had two legs down here, so they may be going to trap you and fool you here. Although this is the first break of that trend line, you just need enough room to get out, and you don't have it there. You get a failed second entry long here, but again, you've got to go short at the very low. And this is not a breakout pullback short. This is just a breakout of the double bottom there. If you drag your line down here, notice those lows, and that's just a direct breakout. Here's your breakout pullback short right here. You might consider entering there, but again, I didn't want to mark it because you're going low right into a little 2-bar matching low right there. It is off the key entry point. It is a breakout pullback short. Like the other one, you probably could argue for this one to be green. Actually, I think I had it marked green, and I thought I marked the wrong one, and I just missed the other one. Was the problem, I think. So, but that was really tempting. I wanted to take that trade seriously, but I didn't. And look at, and of course you see this, but this is what happens. People will say, I want to take that trade, I want to take that trade, but it's aggressive or it's not a very good setup. And then they watch it take off like that and they say, I knew I should have taken that trade. And then they'll do it the next time, like right over here, and they get burned. And so if you follow the rules and prices took off, you still did the right thing. Sometimes prices take off on a setup that's not very good. And I mean, at this point, after trying to go higher 1, 2, 3 times, and then this being a breakout pullback short as well, and all of them off the key entry point. Plus, see, you got a break here and a new low in place, and that's another thing that scares me because it could just go a tick or two and then reverse, and you fulfilled the rules of how price action usually works. So, um, but I'm going to tell you, sometimes, as I talked about earlier, it's worth taking the risk because it may take off again, and you may get that second leg down, similar to this first one up there. So just keep that in mind. But honestly, I think you're better off skipping that trade. And it's tough to watch it go and just take off without you. But hopefully, maybe you were in one of these other ones up here, and you still got a runner going. That's the thing. There's several of these that would have had. Actually, I'll take that back. On this particular setup, there weren't several of them. There were a couple of them. Most of these probably would have caught a runner here. But anyway, you get your break. Now you got a little bit more in the measured leg, and you get a higher low. You've also got an overshoot on this channel. So look how far away we are from the EMA. This one is real close to being blue. The only reason it's not is because this has been a really strong sell-off, and you'd be trying to pick bottoms here, and that's pretty dangerous. It's fairly, as we talked about before, anytime you're trying to pick tops and bottoms, that gets dangerous. But if you did catch this, you catch the low of the day. Of course, you get another opportunity to do that too, but you would have caught the low of the day here, and you could ride that. So there's some payoffs for being aggressive at times, but you need to be able to really read the price action, and you have to realize that you're going to get it wrong, and don't give it any extra room. If you're wrong, just take your hit and maybe try it on the next one and to get it back. And because if you catch it, you'll more than make up for it if you catch the right one. So, but anyway, this one would have worked easily. And then of course, you got this little correction moving up, and you get a close outside, and you move to a new high and a big bearish bar. And that is a second entry because there's your new low, first entry, pullback, second entry. And even in this move, there's two legs, so there's a hidden second entry there as well. A move that big, you're probably going to try to get one more push to test those lows. And so, you're thinking a scalp. Here comes a lower high, it shoots back through the EMA, pulls back, and gives you another fairly bearish bar. I'd look for a second leg down equal to that first one at the very minimum. And maybe you'll go on and make another leg down or try to make a new low, but you see you get a perfect measured leg there. And then it bounces. This one's tempting because now you've got a double test of this level, but you still got this trend line working down, and that's the first close outside. But look what happens. It comes down, tests that same level again, and gives you a big bullish reversal type bar. It takes a lot of buying to make a bar like that. And so there's your higher low, your double test of this previous double bottom. There's where to go long. And then you actually get a pullback and a failed second entry short here. This looks like a perfect reversal pattern, but you got to go long with a 2-bar matching high right into a previous high. So I'm not crazy about it, but it is a failed second entry short. It is a nice looking reversal pattern. You're probably expecting a reversal here, and it would have worked. So, but again, it's just a little bit aggressive because of all the other things I talked about. Really, you got a high here, and then this is a 2-bar matching high that's really not much higher, and then you got this 2-bar matching high with not much room to go there. So it's just a little risky. And of course, it shoots up, and you get your first break of this little short-term channel, and it comes back, and that really kind of sets your trend line. I drew it off these first two swings right here, and I had it a little flatter earlier. And you probably would have been looking for this a little further down, maybe down here. But usually it's going to be off the closes, except when it's coming off the high or the low. And generally it will be off the low. And so, but you can see this one fits up here. This is where it really set up from right here and went higher. And once you came up here and it fit on those closes perfectly there, then you knew you had it right. It was a little bit of guesswork. I mean, this is more sideways stuff here, so you really could trade this both ways still at this point. Actually, until we bounced here, it got kind of confusing here because I really thought we were just going to go sideways and maybe try to keep going down. But we made a higher low here. We made a higher high, double bottom, higher low. higher high, a higher low, a higher high. So now you got an uptrend, although on this short-term channel you got a break and a new high in place. But I'm not going to short that because there's probably a bigger pattern, which there is. And even though you're still swinging both sides here, you could probably argue to go short here on this one. But I don't think it's worth risking after making a double, you know, finding all that support and then making a higher high and a higher low and another higher high. And then of course it shoots down and it goes from a higher high to a lower low. So it gets really confusing here. And I'm thinking, you got to be thinking, well, I may get a chance to trade it both ways here. But it actually comes up, gives you a first entry short, tries to go higher again, gives you a second entry short, and gives you a nice bullish bar, and it does bounce right off that line again. And you should have definitely had that line in place now with those three bars up there, even if you couldn't find it down here, and just drag it down. And so I like going long there. You actually get another pullback here, but again, it's right back into these highs, and we just made a lower low, so I'm a little leery of that one. Again, you would have survived it and could have gone higher, but look what happens. It tries to go lower again and gives you that failed second entry short. And really, this is a second entry on a hit. This is another hidden second entry because you make that high, you come down, you try to go up again, you come down, and so that would be your a second entry right there if you went to a little smaller chart. And then I draw that trend line now, and then it actually starts riding up that trend line, and you get one more little tick lower and takes off. And this was your breakout. This turns out to be a breakout pullback long. And you got multiple attempts to go lower and a proven trend line on a shorter term one here. And so I like going long there. It's like a little breakout pullback long again. And look at it go. What they did was all the all the safety stops were up here, which were buy stops for all the people that were short. So now everybody starts exiting. And just by the time they exit, it turns back down again. And that's what happens to most traders. They're always, they're always exiting at just the wrong time. Just about the time they think that they're wrong, that's when they exit, and then it goes exactly where they thought it was going to go. And that happens over and over and over. But anyway, we had the breakdown here. Now we've got one leg up, correction, second leg up. There's your first leg. Second leg, and that's basically almost a perfect measured move. You got this shorter term channel working up. You get a break here, move to a new high, and then it sells off. And again, you probably could argue to enter up here. You could argue for that to be green up here. But notice what happened. It tried to go higher again, and it could have easily ticked up there and stopped you out before it went lower, because that's what they do. I mean, the people that actually can move the market, they know there's a lot of stops up here, and they tried to go once, twice, three times before they finally gave up and let it fall lower. And so it's easy for them to move it up there and run all the stops, and then it turns and goes the other direction. So you might enter there, but again, you're better off to wait on a lower high, which comes here. And at this point, though, it's not a very good signal bar. And so wait on see if you get a reversal pattern, and it finally pushes through, pulls back, and it confirms that short-term trend line. That's a real bullish bar, but you got a bearish one beside it. And it doesn't matter because you're looking at this like a trap, because most everybody's thinking up. But your up is finally played out, your correction. And this one, you really could argue for that one to be yellow because it is right into that trend line. But we had a break way back here, and you had your two measured legs up that I just showed you. And so the fact that it didn't bounce off this trend line and go higher and shoots on through, that's a pretty good sign that we're probably going to go lower. But anyway, pushes on down, then it comes back, and this is what you'd expect. It'll come back and test that line, that former trend line, and hopefully it acts as resistance, and it does. But that's the first entry, and that's the first close outside this short-term trend line working up, and then it runs to a new high, and again, there's your first high. You wait on that lower high. Again, you could argue to make that one green. But you're always better off to wait on that lower high. You'll hear me say that over and over and over. And there's the better entry. Of course, this one gapped and hung around here, so you probably had to try to get in with a limit order, and you may not have got in it. And that's what's so sad, but that sometimes these are hard to get in. And look at that move down. But look, it gives you still plenty. Even if you miss that, just be patient. Comes back right here, confirms that trend line on a third touch. Failed second entry long, big bearish, I wouldn't say big, but a nice bearish bar. Just go short right there. And then it comes back again and gives you another bar right there, another lower high. Even though it didn't break higher, that's still a lower high, and you can see it creeping down that trend line. Go short right there. Boom, off it goes. And then this one, I went back and forth about this one, but notice that low. There's a first entry, then a second entry. It's right at the key entry point again. It's a second entry short. It's a bearish bar. It's just so close to that little 2-bar matching low, and you are getting back down here closer to some previous lows. But it's still, remember we measured the other leg. If you did that, you know the measured leg is way on down there, so you're looking for this to go quite a ways. Doesn't mean it will, but that's what you're looking for. And then it actually, that's a little bit sideways. It actually gives you a little bit of a breakout pullback short. That's really tempting there, but the fact that we hadn't taken off again and we're just kind of going sideways makes me really leery of that one right there. And that one's so big that if you did enter, you would have to let it come back, and because to get in it with 8 ticks, and I just think you're better off skipping that one. If you did get in there, hopefully you got in back here, and if you got stopped out, you didn't take, as big a hit, because there's no way to, if you enter here with a stop, by the time you put your stop up here, then it's just too big a bar. And then that gets us into the 2 o'clock hour. So, but yeah, there were lots of entries today. Most all of them were pretty good. There were a few chances to catch a few runners as well. This day is probably the kind of day that would be a little more difficult for somebody that's not good at recognizing a reversal, because the market reversed. You got an uptrend that reversed, so you got one reversal, then you got a big downtrend that reversed, and then you're just kind of going sideways before it pushes on up. This is really an uptrend all the way up through here. So you got another uptrend that suddenly reverses. It's all downtrend, all down, and then suddenly you get another reversal and it's all up. And so those days can be very difficult for some traders, especially if you're not good at spotting a reversal. That's where you have to recognize that this trend is met all its rules, or all the conditions of a reversal. You got your break, a huge move to a new low with an overshoot, and then you got a reversal pattern right in here. You bounced enough times here to go low, to go long way down here, but you really want to wait on that reversal pattern. And you got to, where was the other one that was pretty nice? There was a really nice reversal pattern. Oh, it was up here. This was a really nice reversal pattern. This one not so much, but I would say this thing really didn't reverse strongly till here, and even then it comes down, it comes back and gives you a nice reversal pattern. So learn to recognize that. But anyway, this is a fairly long chart lesson today, so I'm going to wrap it up. We're done for the week. We'll be back again to do it Monday, but I'm done for today. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.